Well, hi, a very warm welcome to Dusty Shelf. Hope I find you well. Today we're talking about Hornby's high-speed train. So the models you see here are Hornby's original incarnation of the high-speed train. I guess the mouldings date from around, I think it was about 1983 was the first time these came out. These particular ones probably about 1990, something around there. So best part of 30 years old, I would guess, 20-30 years old. But as we'll discuss in a moment, I did a video where I completely restored this power car and got it running again. Let me just set the background. A year ago I received an advert from one of the retailers telling me that the Hornby InterCity 125 executive pack had arrived in stock, and it had a small price of £400, and when I went onto the Hornby website it was £450. So I came out into the workshop to record a video, and I had a bit of a rant about how on earth can you put £450 worth of value into a very simple shaped InterCity 125, an iconically shaped but simple shaped InterCity 125. And then in well, should we say protest, I took one of these apart, took the power car apart and refurbished it, got it running on the track, and basically concluded the video saying, you know, I can't justify £450. And I put a thumbnail saying, sorry Hornby, can't do £450, and then refurbished some older trains. And I was expecting a few hundred views, and once it had gone past a few thousand, it just kept going. And with its popularity also came sort of a lot of negativity. So in the end I took the video off the channel, because that's not what this channel's about. I don't like negativity, and yeah, that's not what the video was trying to be about. So what I was trying to say, and I have done a follow-up video on it since, is basically with this being quite a simplistic shape, it's very difficult to justify putting a £450 price mark on the model. Now if you've got a steam engine with all of the complex mechanisms inside, and the flickering firebox and the smoke generator and all the other things that go with a steam engine, then yeah, okay, I can kind of begin to understand how you can add that kind of cost into the value of the item. But with an InterCity 125, I was just struggling to see, you know, apart from sort of detail maybe inside and maybe a lighting package, how could you put that kind of value in here? You know, single motor, it's only got one power car, it's the other one's a dummy. Now this pack for £450 did come with the HM7000 sound chips in there, so obviously that accounted for, let's say, £150 of that. But it still meant, you know, these two cars were the best part of £300. And I really struggled to convince myself that with this kind of vehicle you could actually add £350 worth of value into the model. So in the end I didn't buy one. Scroll on a year's time, and as we know, Hornby keep having many sales at the moment, and I saw the rail charter set for sale. And recently, if you're a member of the Hornby Club, they've offered a further £15 discount on in-stock items, which brought this down to a very reasonable price, around the £200 mark. And for £200 I thought, well, let's have a look at it. Let's have a look. Let's see if I was wrong. You know, can you add enough detail into one of these trains to make it worthy of £200? Now, this one doesn't have the sound chip in it. So basically it's just a standard analog train. There's no sound, there's no HM7000 in it. So but these still had a full retail price on them, £395 in this year's prices, and as I say, reduced down roughly around 200. So what my plan today is basically do a review on this set. I mean, I know there's lots of reviews on the new HST sets from Hornby, but I'm going to go on the angle that I'm looking back to my 1990s, 1980s model here, and basically looking at where all the detail has been improved, and whether I was indeed very wrong in saying that, sorry Hornby, you can't add that kind of value into an InterCity 125. Now, those that follow the channel know that I've bought a couple of things lately, and the packaging, Hornby have changed their distribution supplier. I don't know who it is now, but before we get really well wrapped items with lots of bubble wrap on them, and I don't know what's gone wrong, but this was another one. I'm just going to bring the box in. This is how it was delivered. So this is the normal carton that the Hornby models are kind of delivered from the factory in, and all they've done is just put the label on the outside and posted it out. The model inside, the actual box, did have one layer of bubble wrap around it that I've taken off. Thankfully this one arrived without any damage, but yeah, if you're sending out hundreds of pounds of models, this carton, this outside carton, really won't do. You do have to have a secondary layer of some sort of protection around them. I'm just going to say that again. It's absolutely crazy with all the expense spent on marketing and you know, everything else that goes into bringing one of these to market, and then the very last thing you do is you go for a cheap supplier that just takes your, you know, your outside packaging, and very much like some of the big online retailers, just puts your sticker on the outside and puts it in a post box. You know, really should be a little bit better than that, I think. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that. Anyway, back to this lovely Rail Charter Services model. So this is the Rail Charter Services Class 43 high-speed train pack from Hornby, 21 pin, DCC ready, and the model number is R30204. You can see on the front of the box here that we get a power car and a dummy power car, so only one of these is powered. Already the model looks absolutely superb on there. It does look really, really nice. And at the end of the box here you can see another schematic, and the same is repeated on the top and bottom. On the back of the box, a little bit of information about the rail charter service, and then finally on the underside there's just the normal warning saying that this is a detailed scale model and not suitable for children under 14 years of age. Let's get the model out of the box. So just very gently opening the end here, and it's really good to see some decent packaging around the model. It is a cardboard sleeve that's round this polystyrene case, but I think that's perfectly acceptable. I much prefer this to that the corrugated cardboard that the APT model came in. A little bit of white card here. Now I have cut the tape just for ease for filming, and inside I'll just move the instructions to one side for a moment. We've got the two models presented in there, just with a little bit of protection over the tissue paper. And yeah, first impressions. Yeah, I do think I probably was wrong in what I was saying. These do look superb, but we'll get into the detail of those in a moment. The instructions, basically please read through the instructions, particularly the safety notes on page 8. I'll have a quick look at those in a moment. There's some running tips here, and basically making sure your track is clean, lubrication points, and running the train in. And then inside, again, a schematic showing the lubrication points. The accessories that come with the model, we've got a dummy buckeye coupling and 2 vacuum pipes that will fit onto different positions on the loco. And then number 3 goes through how to fit the decoder, turning the front bogie to get access to the screws and lifting the body off. And then you've got your 21 pin socket that's fully accessible for whichever chip you want to put in there, whether it be just a standard digital chip, or whether you want to go for something like the HM7000 and maybe even the HM7000 with the sound on there. I might actually consider upgrading this at some point, but for the moment we're just going to deal with analog. Little bit of information here about the decoder and driving tips. Now it is important to note, if you are fitting a digital decoder in these, you will need to put a chip in both the lead car and the tail car in order to operate the lights, and those chips will have to be coded together. Myself, I'm not overly familiar with the digital setup, but yeah, as I understand it, you can link the 2 chips so that you know, both cars operate the same. Number 5 shows access to the speakers. Now this does imply that the model is supplied with speakers. To gain access to the speakers, remove the loco body as shown in figure 4 to 6. Remove the speaker PCB from the speaker casing and undo the 2 screws from here. The 2 speakers can be replaced. So that implies that it does come with the speakers. And then down here, this is quite intriguing, working fans. So I'm assuming there's some fans in the top of these that yes, that do run when the train is running, and there is a little switch inside that you can adjust the fan speed with the screwdriver. I do like that feature. So for DCC, The fans will run at 30% of the locomotive speed. The fans will switch off after 10 seconds when the locomotive has been brought to a stop. And then for analog, the fans are always controlled by the electrical current to the locomotive. So basically, for analog, for how we're doing it today, when I put the power on, the fans should spin. Be interesting to see whether the fans, it doesn't say whether there's working fans in both the lead car and the tail car, but we'll find that out obviously when we put it on the track. And then your lighting functions for the DCC. So you've got forward and reversing lights. So when the train is going forward in one direction, the forward direction will have white lights, the tail direction will have red lights. When you reverse the direction of the train, the lights will switch over again with the white lights leading the full train set. On your DCC control, you've got various functions where you can switch them on or off, and also the cab interior light as well. You've got functions to turn that on and off. And then on the back here, still a mention about television suppression, spare parts and service. I'm afraid I've not had particularly great success with spare parts at the moment. The service has been fantastic from Hornby, but yeah, spare parts, the answer seems to be to send the model back rather than sending parts out. Yeah, which is a shame really, because these kind of models, you know, it'd be nice to be able to get the spares for them. And then the safety notes down here that I've already mentioned, so you know, it's not a toy and not suitable for children under 14 years. So that's the instructions. Now on to the train itself. Let me just lift one of these out very gently. Right, this feels like the dummy car. I'm just going to pop that to one side, and this should be, I'm hoping, oh yes, that's the power car, and it's extremely heavy. Now, first impressions. It's good. It is very, very good. It's better than I expected, and yeah, I was very worried that it would be difficult to incorporate too much detail into this kind of shape, but there is quite a lot on here to talk through. And indeed, just in the top here you can see the grille across the top and the two fans in both the power car and the dummy car. Now, if I pick up the power car from the original 1980s, that is approximately the same weight as the dummy car. This power car, really, really heavy. So I think what I'm going to do is start with getting the scales out and actually doing a comparison between all of the weights of these different cars. Let me just get this box out of the way. Now, before I would just bring the scales into the shot, quick mention back to the vacuum pipes. So it does say here, vacuum pipes A and B are only included if your class 43 has a front buffer beam. Well, this one doesn't, so therefore there are no vacuum pipes for this. Sorry, I did mention that earlier. There aren't any vacuum pipes. So the accessory bags just has the Buckeye couplings in there, no vacuum. Right, starting off with the power car from the earlier version of the 125. We'll just pop that on the scales, coming in at 220 grams. And now the power car from this later version, 507, so the best part of 300 grams heavier, but almost half a kilogram, that lead car. And then in terms of the trailing car, it should be fairly similar. So 185 for the original version, and yeah, 200, so roughly around the same for the trailing cars. So in total we should be looking at about 300 grams more. So 405 for the previous version, and for the newer version 707. So yeah, 300 grams heavier, and yeah, it's going to have a lot of traction, isn't it, with that weight. Well, let's talk about the traction first of all. So the original model had the motor fitted onto the bogie. Hornby have been doing this for years, a ring-filled motor onto one bogie and just powered the four wheels from a single motorist mounted in the middle. If you want to have a look at that motor, I've done several restorations of locos with that type of ring-filled motor in there. And yeah, single traction on the wheels there, and just freewheeling front wheels, but did have a pickup on the front as well. The newer model is basically fitted with a single centrally fitted motor with drive shafts to either bogie. All wheels are driven via the drive shaft, and all wheels, I believe all wheels, are pickups as well. So a lot of traction there, so much so that it's not fitted with any tyres straight down onto the wheels there, whereas obviously with the previous previous incarnation, we were fitted with tyres on the traction tyres on the bogie there. But this one clearly, you know, doesn't need it with its weight and the fact that it's got eight driven wheels on there. Now the motor inside, I believe it's a 5-pole motor, and also with a double flywheel, which again is a big difference, or a big step up from the previous model, which you know, flywheels weren't a thing on model railways when this was put together. So yeah, the traction and control on this, well, there should be no comparison. This should be absolutely wonderful. I'm really looking forward to getting this on the track, actually. Right, well, I'm going to have a look around the models now and just pick out some of the features that are on here that have the enhanced detail. And obviously each one of these features, each little bit of detail, they all cost a little bit more money to put onto a model. So what I'm trying to see is whether you know, there is that amount of value added into the new InterCity 125. So let's start at the back corner here. So obviously we've got two different paint liveries on here. Actually, to be fair, the paint is just as good on both of them. There's no blemishes. I've looked over this loco, I can't see any blemishes in the silver at all. But then again, back in this design, couldn't really see any blemishes on here either. Even with its age of being, you know, knocked around and run for many years, there's still no real issues on there. Now, starting with the rear door, we did have the sliding mechanism for the guards door on the previous design. You can see it just running through here. This is also represented on the new design, but with a little bit more finesse around it. Nice to see the window frame on the door in the new model. And we've got two catches that have been picked out in silver. Lovely little bit of detail on here. Whereas on the previous model, we had a little moulded in catch that was just painted over. Nice separately fitted handle, as you can see, running through here. Whereas on the previous model, the handle, I'm not sure actually if that is separately fitted. I think it's moulded in. It looks like it's moulded in and just picked out in the paint, going on the fact that there's paint either side where the paint's run over it. So yeah, that is definitely moulded in. And the windows are flush fit in the newer design, whereas obviously you had a glazing package that clipped up inside the body on the previous InterCity 125. Underneath the door, we've got a really intricate bogie that's represented, and also you can see how the bogie has been scaled down. We don't have this wraparound arrangement you can see here in the plastic, which would you know, allow the motor to be clipped into the bogie. Sort of a throwback from earlier Triang models, I believe. And this one is just modelled to perfection. I mean, there is so much detail on that bogie. Really well picked out. And also you can see the brake discs on the side of the wheels picked out in the sort of silver and grey colour there. And yeah, exquisite detailing. Really nice. At the back here, we've got the air tank mounted under the back of the carriage. This one had the double air tanks, but they were integrated into old style coupling on the back of the bogie there. This time around, the bogie is completely separate, and the coupling has now been integrated into the body with the smaller coupling into a NEM pocket that's well, you can see how the actuation is working on there. Let me just show that. It's Really beautiful actuation on the coupling there, which should allow for, you know, a very smooth transition around the corners. And then at the bottom here we've got some sort of electrical coupling. I mean, somebody I'm sure will tell me what these are, but I believe they're probably the coupling, electrical couplings to the adjacent carriages. Now, on the back of the previous model, we did have the concertina walkway modelled into the back of the carriage. 2 windows on here, again recessed in, and a moulded in door, as you can see. On the newer design, the concertina is much more pronounced. It's much more fidelity in the way that it's modelled, and the door inside is moulded in there with again with flush glazing and some very intricate printing just on the back of the carriage. Can't read what that says with my eyes, but yeah, it's certainly very well printed indeed. I'll try and get a close-up shot of that. As well as that, the way that the carriage wraps round into the door, just a lot more fidelity than the previous moulded finish on the back of the carriage. Moving down the sides, we've got the air intake for the engine here, and yeah, it's beautifully modelled on this new design. The quality of the moulding through there, and the fact that it's got the reinforcing bars running through. I mean, we still had the reinforcing bars showing on the previous design, but it was certainly a solid moulding. These were just moulded into the plastic, whereas this is all the way through. And if you know about anything about injection moulding, that's a really difficult thing to achieve. So yeah, hats off to Hornby. That does look superb through there. And the painting, the way the green runs up to the orange line on the roof here, it's absolute perfection. So well done. I really do like it indeed. Whereas on the previous model we had a grey sort of running up and then a grey roof sort of running around the corner, so it all kind of blended into one really. So there's not really any seam running down the side there, and they were quite clever as well that they made sure that you had a sort of a line, if you like, where the 2 colours would meet. Whereas on this one you can see that you know, what they've done is picked it out in this orange paint that runs around here. And from my previous experience with the orange paint on some Hornby's models, it's been a little bit questionable. This one looks absolutely perfect. Yeah, very impressed. In both ends by the doors, we've got the warning of the overhead wires. It looks absolutely superb. And then along the bottom of the carriage, we've got these 2 moulded in features, which I guess are some sort of access panels. Don't know enough about the full-size vehicle to say exactly what they are, but what we had on the previous model were these access panels sort of picked out here. But this was where, you know, the clips that hold the body onto the chassis, these are the little tongues that sort of poked through the body back in the day. Those are a long thing of the past now. And as I mentioned when we were looking through the instructions, you know, you move the bogies to get access to the screws underneath here to remove the body, whereas the body on the previous model was just clipped in. Coming forward to the front door, now the fidelity on the front door is very, very similar actually. This one a little bit weak on the moulding lines around the door, not so crisp, because where it's been painted over, you know, it doesn't give a really distinct, almost the feeling of a separately fitted part. It doesn't feel like that. It does feel like it's a moulded indoor. Glass is flush again, which is nice to see, whereas on the previous design, as I mentioned, you know, it's got the glass clipped up inside the body. Again, moulded in handrails that have just been picked out in silver, whereas these are separately fitted. And then we've got the latches on the door all picked out in silver on this new train, whereas back in the day they were moulded in there, and they're quite detailed moulding really, but just painted in with the colour. On the front here, some more printing. Unfortunately, I can't read that, it's far too small. And the glazing, again, is flush on the corner here, whereas this glazing is recessed in. Now, one of the things that's quite apparent with this new body that's been moulded on here for the high-speed train is the way that the sort of styling cues and features have been picked up around this corner in particular. It's a much more acute shape with a very distinct corner on there, very much like the real thing, whereas this was a little bit sort of washed out. Obviously, in order to get it out of the injection moulding tool, you couldn't have too much of a steep undercut on these, whereas this has got absolutely perfect moulding. And then underneath, just underneath the front of the cab, we've got the sort of coupling door for when this is being towed. It's got these little moulded in features, but again, the door is not particularly that well defined. It doesn't look like a separately fitted part. It does look like it's moulded in. However, it is a little bit of an improvement on what we previously had, where we just had holes in the moulding and a very clearly moulded in door that's on there. Again, the front bogie beautifully picked out on the newer version, but just a repeat moulding on the previous version. And then in between the two bogies, you can see on the previous version, it was just a moulded in box with a couple of picked out little features moulded inside. Whereas on here, a really intricate, detailed moulding with all separately fitted pipe work and little bits of pipe running down the side here. It's beautifully done. Beautifully done. Yeah, what a wonderful model. Coming round to the roof, I mean, this is where this model comes into its own. If you think about how, you know, as a bystander looking down onto a railway and watching these go round, you know, whilst you can see the bogies and everything, it's very difficult normally to get sort of from this angle up underneath the train. A lot of the time you spend looking down on the top of the train, and I think, you know, it's always important to get this kind of view really right on the models. And clearly, you know, what we had before was this moulded in, well, just moulded in features, whereas here, I mean, it's just wonderful, isn't it? The detail on here. You got the cowl over the top of the cooling fans here, and then I'm guessing the exhaust at the front here, all beautifully modelled in. I'm not sure what these are, but they look like some sort of doors or flaps that open, and then the lining on the roof picked out beautifully. I mean, we still had quite a lot of the features on the previous model, but they were all very clearly kind of moulded in. The two flaps either side here, you know, it's just a single flap. You can see all the hinges that run down the side, whereas this has been, it's still got the hinges, still got the joins, but where the panelling has been picked out, it's just very, very nicely done. And obviously, no cooling fans in here, no detail on the roof. It just feels very plasticky, this one, whereas that is a really beautiful model. Really, really well done. And again, differences in the roof over the cab. You can see where the door here, you've got quite a distinct feature sticking out over the door, which on the real train isn't so pronounced. And again, this has kind of captured the profile a little bit better of the real train. This is very sort of conical, whereas this is very smooth and rounded, much like the real thing. And then round to the headlights. So on the previous design, we had a single bulb on either side. These were, I think these were directional. I can't remember, to be honest with you. It doesn't really matter. But basically, the lights came on at the front when the train was moving forward. And you can see how the glass is sort of clipped in. Just, well, it's like a token effort, isn't it? It's just sort of clipped in on the front there. And then we've got a moulded in wiper on the recessed in screen. It's totally different on this beautiful model. You know, separate lights all the way across. We've got a grille on the front there. That's just absolutely wonderful, with a separately fitted wiper, and then the glazing and the surround around the glazing is so well done. Really, really crisp moulding, and yeah, it just looks absolutely perfect. And finally, the inside of the train. So back in the day, we had a single piece plastic white moulding, little token effort, the seats there, and a white sort of control panel, all moulded in one plastic. Now we've got this wonderful interior, separately fitted seats. When I look through the window, I can see all the dials along the front on the controls, and then in the back of the cab behind the seats, the detailing continues all the way back. It's just really beautifully done, and it'll be interesting to see if that cab light comes on with the analog control on these. Now, I'm not proposing to sort of talk around the other side of the model, because obviously very, very similar and very much in the same kind of detail. So the pretense of the previous video was, you know, sorry Hornby, I can't afford £450. Nothing's changed. I still can't justify £450 on a loco, but this video is a little bit different. It should be Sorry Hornby. I should have paid this a little bit more attention. What a wonderful model. Right, well, just as a quick reminder, this is the model back from the early days, and yeah, it is moving, but it's getting stuck, particularly on the points. Oh no, it's not even on the points now. It's this motor, you know, the Wingfield motor. They're not the strongest of things. When they're moving, they're fine, but you know, this one's been standing since I filmed the video last year. Already looks like it could do with another service, but it's still moving, and there is a reasonable control over it. You know, it's not horrendous. Yeah, probably just needs another bit of a service. But anyway, let's take this one off the track, and let's see what the newer version's like. It certainly already looks better on the track. And in terms of its movement, I'm just putting a little bit of power on as I'm talking to you, and you can see it just creeping away. It's got absolutely beautiful motion. Yeah, as expected, a lot of finesse, a lot of control. I mean, there's not really any comparison, to be fair. You know, I know this is a brand new train, but it's driven on all the wheels, and it's just so smooth. Yeah, very impressed. I'll just pop the dummy car on the track here, just to demonstrate the fans. So indeed, the fans do work in both the power car and the dummy car. Obviously, I put the dummy car on here so it doesn't move, so I can film it quite well with ease. And then just demonstrating the headlights on here. So in forward direction, this being the trailing car, you can see the inner lights turn to red. And now if I change the power supply to the other direction, you'll see that the outer lights illuminate as white, but also at the same time the cab light has come on. Well, as well as the high-speed train set, in Hornby's sale I also managed to pick up a rake of carriages. So we've got 5 Mark III carriages here. Now I'm not proposing to undo all the boxes on camera. We'll just take one at random and just have a look at the detail on the coach. I'm going to open this with my ruler trick. So I'm going to try and keep the boxes nice on these. So just slide the ruler in and then tease the ends out, if it will go. That end's gone. Let's try this end. There we go. These do look really nice coaches. They're quite heavy as well, which is good to see. Set of couplings at the end there. These are the magnetic couplings. So we've got magnetic couplings on the coaches, and hopefully it should be, yeah, they're NEM pocket ones, so I can put a set of those onto the train, which is great because I can get rid of the coupling on there. That's really good. Okay, let's lift the coach out. So you can see how it's presented in the normal coach packaging, and yeah, very handsome coach. Quite impressed with that. Moulded in details on the doors, but again, flush fitting windows all the way down the side, but separately fitted steps. Although this end, there's a set of steps missing, which isn't too good. Let's see if they're in the box. In the main box. In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pause the video for a moment, have a look at one of the other carriages and see if it's supposed to have a set of 4 steps all the way around. Well, I've just taken the other coaches out of the boxes, and none of them are fitted with 4 sets of steps. They're all only fitted with 3. And looking here, there's not any feature there that the steps would have broken from. So for some reason, these coaches are missing steps on one corner. Maybe somebody can explain that to me. But in terms of the detailing, we've got a lovely corridor in between the 2 coaches. You can see the little white doors in here and the concertina in between the 2 coaches. Got some little printing on the back of the coach just here. And again, the electrical coupling shown. I've already mentioned the steps. moulded in door, with the door handle looks quite nice, and the emblem of the rail charter service on the side of the coach there. The printing is absolutely perfect, with the orange line running along the roof again, and the silver paint absolutely perfect. The numbers are as crisp as, well, they're absolutely spot on. And then we've got nice little details picked out on the underneath of the coach here, in the printing for the electric circuitry just here, and other little bits and pieces like the latches all picked out. And yeah, very handsome looking coach. Inside, the seats have got some lovely detail on them. These don't come fitted with lights in them. You can fit lights quite easily. Hornby do a kit, or you can retrofit them yourself. But inside, I can see that the seats are a two-tone seat, and there's a table in between each of them. The bogies, really exquisite detail on there. Lovely quality moulding, and yeah, lots of, well, they look like separately fitted parts on the bogies, which is really nice. And then again on the wheels, you can see the brake discs picked out in grey on the side there. Yeah, lovely looking coach, so quite looking forward to seeing them on the layout. Well, I don't propose to go into too many details about the high-speed train, but just reading a couple of sections off the back of the box here. It says, originally conceived as a cheaper and more reliable alternative to the advanced passenger train in the early 1970s, the British Railway Board authorised the development of a prototype high-speed diesel train. The first two locomotives were designated as Class 41. When coupled with their coaching stock, and originally built at Crewe Works, the InterCity 125 units were considered diesel multiple units and allocated Class 253 for the Western region and Class 254 for the Eastern region. Following problems with the power cars and the operational ease of removing the power cars to perform scheduled maintenance, unit formations were abandoned, resulting in the Class 43 locomotive prefix being adopted. 197 Class 43 power cars were produced between 1976 and 1982. The units had an absolute maximum speed of 148 miles an hour, which is the current world record for diesel traction, and was set on the 1st of November in 1987. And a little bit of information here about the rail charter service. After the success of the Staycation Express in 2020, in 2021 the railway charter services operated an improved service using a classic InterCity 125 train, complete with first-class sumptuous leather seats, private tables and PowerPoints. The service ran from the 19th of July to the 9th of September, operating 4 times a day, with the exception of Fridays, at which point the train returned to Crewe for maintenance and sanitation. Well, in filming this video I've learnt a few things. The first thing I've learnt is, despite extensive testing, the track on my new layout isn't as good as I thought it would be. And basically this train, once it's on an oval track, is absolutely fantastic, but on the new track that I've laid on the new baseboard, I've got some places where sort of the track veers to the left and then bends to the right, and even though it's quite a large radius, these carriages really don't like changing direction. It just kept derailing. Next thing I learned is, with the couplings that were supplied with the train, basically they just kept getting stuck on the bends and derailing, and got to a point where it didn't matter which track I put them on, I just couldn't get the train to go all the way round. So I ended up pulling them from the NEM pockets and replacing them with the magnets that you can see here. And train ran much better when the magnets were attached. But this is where I learnt the third and final thing, which is basically, the longer this train gets, obviously you have a sort of drag weight of the carriages behind the front loco, or the lead loco. And what's happening is, when this gets to a bend, basically the drag pulling back towards this way, eventually, you know, you overcome the force of the magnet, but also in a very sharp acceleration. This train is very powerful with its 8-wheel drive, and when you put the power on very quickly, you can easily leave your whole train of carriages behind as the train and maybe the front carriage takes off around the track. It's happened to me quite a few times. So again, I've learned something about the magnets here. Now, these are the magnets that Hornby supply with the carriages. I have had better success with my APT, but those are an aftermarket one I bought from Peter's Spares, so I don't know whether it's the strength of these magnets that are causing the issue. The other thing I would say, I did mention about the magnets coming with the carriages. There's not enough of a set to put a magnetic coupling on the front train, so between the train and the front carriage. So this, I've had to put a link bar into both of the NEM pockets, rather than a magnetic joint on here. The train didn't come with the magnets, the carriages didn't come with enough magnets, so I'll have to buy a set of those, which is a little bit frustrating. So back right to the beginning. So just to recap, £395 the retail price for the lead car and the trailing car, one of them powered, one of them dummy, and basically at nearly £400 retail. Can you put that kind of value into a very simplistic diesel shape, which is the high-speed train? Now, I love the details on this. I think this is such a step up from the early model, and yes, I go back to what I said, that really I should have given this a lot more attention when it came out, instead of just dismissing it over the price. Now, the fact that I've managed to pick this one up for nearly half of that price, it's still a very expensive loco, but I'm really pleased with it. I think it's wonderful for that money. Would I spend £395 on it? I'm still not sure. I mean, it's kind of academic, because I just couldn't justify, spending that kind of money on a train. I just personally just can't justify that. I know others do, and I'm really glad you do. Otherwise, these kind of trains wouldn't be made. For me, do I think it's worth it? Well, not particularly in the detailing. The little things on this, I think the doors still look like they're moulded in a little bit, and although it's got some really lovely details on it, there's just not enough intricacy in this type of model to warrant that kind of money. However, the actual running mechanisms inside, the motor, the 8-wheel drive, the power behind this train is absolutely phenomenal. I've loved running it when it has stayed on the track, and as I say, I will point out it's my track and the couplings that have caused the problem. But once I've got it running round on the track, it's been an absolute joy, particularly on this layout where it's an oval. It's just been a pleasure watching it go around. I've had great fun filming it as well, and really pleased I bought the carriages to go with it, because it does look absolutely wonderful. And yeah, I'm over the moon with it. I'm pleased with what I paid for it. I mean, to put it in context, full retail price on this, you've got £395 on the train, then you've got the carriages at £50 each, So 5 carriages there, so you're talking about £650 outlay for the full retail price. I paid just under 200 for the train, and I've paid £20, £25 actually for each of the carriages. So I mean, when you look at that, it's still the best part of 300 quid I've spent on the train here. I'm over the moon with it. I think for 300 quid it's a beautiful thing to have going around on the layout. It's still very, very expensive, but could I go to 650 on the same thing? Yeah, I just don't think I could. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up, and please do check out the channel, lots on there. And if you can subscribe, I'd be awfully grateful. I'm trying to grow the channel, and everybody that subscribes, everybody that leaves a comment, and everybody that likes the video really, really does help. And yeah, I'm very, very grateful. And with that, I'm going to wrap this up and just say thanks ever so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.